In today's news, Rajtunkásor means it's our turn in Hungarian. This is the slogan of the Hungarian EU presidency with ambitious plans, but controversy as well. Child obesity reduces your life expectancy by up to 8 years, a growing problem in the EU.
All smiles for the cameras. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán welcomes a delegation from the European Commission to launch his country's 6-month presidency of the EU. His stated priorities have won support from the EPP group, of which his Fidesz party is a member, especially over the euro.
For the European community, it's very important that Hungary is defending the strengthening of the single currency.
Mr. Orbán also wants to make energy supplies more secure, push Croatia's accession process, get Bulgaria and Romania into the Schengen zone, and create a strategy for integrating the Roma, among other things. But it's Hungary's new media laws that worry many.
I mean, imagine Catherine Ashton going to China or to Iran and trying to tell them what is appropriate and what isn't in free speech when we have very restrictive laws in some of our own member states.
The new laws impose a strict supervisory regime on all types of media, with fines for alleged breaches to be decided by a body made up of Fidesz members. The fear is that the threat of punishment for unclear infractions might lead to self-censorship and a loss of media freedom, and it could spread.
We have had problems in Italy, we have problems in France, we have problems in many countries. And if Hungary goes through with this incredibly outrageous media law, then other countries can do anything they want to.
The new laws have been criticised by some MEPs, the OSCE and others. The Commission's investigating, but Mr. Orbán's supporters aren't worried.
He said effectively that if the Commission finds that some provisions of the law are anti-communautaire, he is ready to adapt the legislation to community standards.
The real key to success will be tackling the euro issue and setting the EU budget framework for 2014 to 20. That sounds like a big enough challenge for anyone.
Let them eat fruit is the call from Europe as France designates January 10th as their national day to combat child obesity. A combination of poor diet, lack of exercise and conflicting information is to blame for this epidemic. But those in the lower income bracket are more susceptible. Changing attitudes towards food needs to begin early on. An EU school fruit scheme was launched in 2009 to encourage healthy eating habits. But MEPs want to see a change in how food is sold to young children.
I repeat the problem of the advertising because they influence the children. And also selling junk food with toys, it's obvious it needs to be stopped.
Junk food, TV advertising and supersized portions are now the enemy of the member states. A problem that began in the USA.
In its misfortune, Europe has been lucky. Obesity in Europe was preceded by a wave of obesity in the United States. One of the most important elements in the development of child obesity is time spent in front of the telly. The more time spent in front of the box, the more we eat. Those are habits that should lead us to take measures to stem the tide. Advertising that targets children can be dangerous. Advertising can be for good or ill.
Peut-être dangereuse. La publicité, ça peut être la meilleure des choses comme la pire des choses.
Perhaps Europe can take a leaf from the Americans. A new initiative across the Atlantic aims to dupe customers into buying healthy. These mini carrots have now been marketed in the same way as crisps.
Bulgarian MEP Maria Nedelcheva of the EPP leads a 7-member delegation to observe the landmark referendum on independence in South Sudan. It's more than 5 years since the 2-decade-long North-South war ended. On the second day of the week-long vote, she spoke to Andreas Dietl from South Sudan.
Mrs. Nedelcheva, you're in southern Sudan. How long have you been there?
I'm a head of delegation of the European Parliament and we are 6 members. Now we will join the mission of the European Union for the period of vote. So from 9th to 15th of January.
Now during the vote, what is the atmosphere like?
At the moment it's very quiet. The procedure is normally etiqueted. It's very positive as atmosphere. We hope that the process will continue and will end like this.
If the two parts separate, is there a risk of a renewed war?
No, I don't think so. The most important is to keep cooperation, the good relations between the two states, and the European Union supports the peace. Maybe one other message is it's good to know that the two states, the two parts of Sudan are interdependent, and it's important to keep a good cooperation and to work for the development of the countries.
Will the emerging new country be sustainable in terms of economy, keeping in mind poverty and also perhaps the risk of maladministration?
We will see about this, because at the moment the most important is to have a peaceful referendum, and after that we can talk about the future of the two parties. I think that it's important to respect the calendrier.
Mrs. Nedelcheva, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.